What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time to talk about the debut album from the band We Are Harlot. It's a self-titled record, and it's from a group formed by Danny Worsnop of Asking Alexandria. Well, formerly of Asking Alexandria. As far back as 2011, this project began, and then around 2014, the Denial single was released, and then of course Worsnop departed from Asking Alexandria. Lots of controversy there, but honestly it seems like he's so much happier with We Are Harlot. He's being creative vocally, and he is really just unleashing all over the place on here. There are a few screamed moments on a few of these tracks, but for the most part, he's just unleashing these howls so reminiscent of like 80s glamorous rock and roll, and it's a thing of beauty most of the time. 90s alternative is definitely an influence as well, and I'm hearing a trickle of 2000s modern rock in there as well. Bands like Audio Slave, and I hate to say Hinder because a lot of people will draw negative comparisons, but I do like their singer most of the time. A lot of the music and the lyrical content is garbage, but I can definitely hear the influence. This record is full of huge soaring choruses, guitar solos, should translate to really big and energetic live shows. I would love to see these guys live. Wild nights, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. 4 themes that are found all throughout this record. It's really just a blast of energy that just seems so powerful a lot of the time. The guitars are loud, in your face, and while the lyrical content does tend to get a bit repetitive, it's something that I find that I can mostly overlook and forgive. The track Dancing on Nails was my introduction to the band, and it happens to be the opening track here on the record. It's very danceable, it's enthusiastic, and I'm loving the energy and the vibes that it's putting off. Like I said, a lot of their sound is reminiscent of that glamorous 80s rock and roll. Think bands like Guns N' Roses, for example. I think tracks like the closer I Tried are a perfect example of when they really do hit that sweet spot with their influences. It incorporates this power ballad style. It's maybe not quite as great as something like Every Rose Has Its Thorn or the classic Sweet Child of Mine, but at the same time you've got to give Worsnop props for what he's doing with his vocals. Dirty Little Thing is a track that has a chord progression kind of reminiscent of the Police's classic hit Message in a Bottle. I like that. I love Worsnop's howls there on that track, and it really just sounds like he's truly coming into his own in terms of his vocal approach. A lot of people are saying, oh, he ruined his voice with all that screaming with Asking Alexandria, but listen to this album and you're going to hear something that may not be perfect, but at the same time it sounds raw and genuine, and I'm very surprised at how much I'm getting into it and connecting with it. There's a few tracks that definitely don't float my boat. Easier to Leave, and the 1 or 2 of those, Easier to Leave, just really feeling stale in my opinion, almost a little bit alt-country tinged. It's something that doesn't feel like it fits with the majority of these tracks. It's just a little bit weird. Right down to the guitar solo, everything else about it, it just feels very formulaic. Some of the moments you're definitely going to see coming. Obviously there's guitar solos on the majority of these tracks, but at the same time I can't really deny that I'm having fun with them. I find them to be very entertaining, very skillful the majority of the time. I'm really enjoying the drumming on the track Never Turn Back. It's got a consistent and pounding rhythm all throughout. Denial's got this awesome guitar lead all throughout it, and it's got a guitar solo that just really skyrockets that track. So there are a lot of musical moments on this thing that make it worth hearing. The track Never Turn Back that I mentioned, I can't help but feel like he sounds a little bit like the Steel Panther vocalist. I mean, I'll be humming along to the song and then all of a sudden Death to All But Metal is playing in the back of my head. I start cracking up and it's just a lost cause from that point. I mentioned that closing track, I Tried, and I like that it's a little bit different. Another one that kind of mixes up the formula of kind of the fast pace, the women, drugs, and rock and roll theme is the track Someday. It deals more with a relationship, kind of calming things down. It's like, you know, whenever the waves subside for a minute whenever you're out in the middle of the ocean. So I like that effect. On this track, I feel like it was definitely influenced by kind of the grunge movement of the 90s, maybe even a little bit of that 2000s alternative. It's definitely a good thing that I'm hearing those influences in this track, and I like the change of pace, like I noted. It's not necessarily tame, but it's a little bit more reserved. I think Someday is a little bit particularly tried and true lyrically, kind of begging the other half to kind of stay, let's work things out, we can get through this. But what makes this song work and what kind of sells it for me is War Worsnop's vocal performance. He just comes across very genuine here on this track, and at the same time, a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more open. I really love the power chords and kind of just the sliding guitar effect that opens up on Flying Too Close to the Sun, my favorite track on this LP. Of course, the guitars just come in this huge barrage on the opening of this track, and I absolutely think they're phenomenal. It's a really enthralling and entertaining opening, and then of course Worsnop's vocals come in and just grip me, and they also feel very loose, very effective. Another one that feels a little bit brutal and punishing is One More Night. It's one of the wildest rides that this album has to offer. It's just rock and roll at its finest. The final track that I want to mention in detail is the track Denial. I talked about it a little bit. I mentioned really enjoying the guitar solo on it, but honestly it just doesn't quite grip me like some of these other tracks do. The transition from chorus to verse is fun and punchy, but at the same time it kind of sucks that the chorus is just very flatlined. It doesn't feel like there's a punch in there. There's not a breath of life that was really needed. The verses are a lot more fun than the chorus itself, and that's kind of a shame for this track. It's reckless and well structured though. I've been enjoying it off and on since I discovered these guys. The screamed vocals and the guitar solo come in and help solidify this song's place on the album, and while it may not be my top favorite, it is something that's growing on me, and I think it has a lot of likable qualities about it. I'm sure a lot of you guys will enjoy it as well. We Are Harlot's debut album gets a little repetitive lyrically. It gets a little bit formulaic at times, but I'm very impressed with the majority of this record. Good things are definitely on the horizon for this band, especially if they continue to kind of round out and flesh out their sound. We Are Harlot's self-titled debut record is a 4 out of 5 for me. Well, this album was definitely a surprise, one of the first big surprises of 2015 for me. It caught me off guard, but I'm glad I'm enjoying this record so much. It's just a fun blast of rock and roll. I think some of you guys might dig it too. Just don't try to take it too seriously. That's what I found. If I start trying to dissect it lyrically, that's when it kind of maybe falls apart for some people. But like I said, it's a fun ride. Don't forget to smash the like button on this review, subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more of my content, and maybe consider donating to the channel if you would like to see more of these reviews on the regular. It's the top link in the description down below. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are linked down there as well. And if you would like to check out We Are Harlot, I will link to one of their songs so you can sample it for yourself in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon right here on ARTV.